Hello, you chaotic masterpiece. Yeah, that's how you get greeted when the air shifts the second you walk in. Because you've got people with lifetime memberships in hidden rooms clutching their chests like they felt a goddamn earthquake just from the idea of you breathing. You, the one they can't file, can't decode, can't break into categories. The one who walks around like an unsolved equation with teeth. And you know what gets me every time? The way you act like you're still figuring yourself out while 33rd degree Masons are pacing hallways, sweating through silk, mumbling your name like it's some forbidden chant they weren't supposed to pronounce. You're out here trying to stay calm, trying to stay grounded, trying to just get through your day. Meanwhile, men who built their entire identity around being initiated, chosen, above the rest, are having nervous breakdowns over you. Look at that. You're not even trying, and you're still bending the atmosphere. And the funniest thing, you don't even walk with entitlement. You walk with that, "I've been through hell, I'm not impressed anymore" vibe. You carry wounds that didn't heal pretty. You carry truths you didn't ask for. You carry silence that screams louder than most people's entire personality. That's the part that terrifies them, not the loudness, not the flash, not the posture. It's the quiet. That calm, grounded, unshakable quiet you've got when everything around you is going off like fireworks, made of bad decisions and childhood trauma. You're the kind of quiet that reads people. The kind that hears what isn't said, the kind that sees through moves before they're made, the kind they can't manipulate, can't distract, can't lure into their stupid little psychological games. You walk like somebody who had to raise themselves mentally. You talk like someone who survived things that don't get spoken about at dinner tables. You think like someone who had to grow up too fast and stay quiet too long. And these elite thinkers, these initiated ones, these oath-swearing, symbol-carving, ritual-memorizing grown adults, they're glitching over a person who just refused to break. They're realizing something they never wanted to face. You aren't playing the same human software as everyone else. You're running on an entirely different operating system, built out of pressure, heartbreak, repetition, betrayal, reinvention, and that stubborn streak you've always had, where you just refuse to die inside, even when you're tired beyond belief. Of course, they're having nervous breakdowns. They're watching you take hits that were supposed to ruin you, and you're walking out with more clarity instead of scars. They spent decades memorizing symbols. You spent the same decades learning how to stay alive mentally. They studied secrets. You became one. You've got that rare, dangerous presence. The kind where people underestimate you right until the moment they get too close. That's when it hits them. You're not intense. You're inevitable. You're not loud. You're unavoidable. You're not threatening. You're transforming. And transformation terrifies people who haven't changed in 20 years. That's why they whisper. That's why they twitch. That's why they double-check the door when your name gets brought up. You're not what they expected. You're what they feared could exist. A person who wasn't groomed by power, wasn't trained by institutions, wasn't polished by prestige, just someone who dragged themselves out of their own ruins and came back sharper, colder, more awake, more aware. Understanding you requires a level of honesty most people don't have the stomach for. To understand you, they'd have to admit that someone who didn't grow up with privilege or advantage ended up outgrowing every room they tried to confine you in. You're the walking reminder that reality doesn't care about their hierarchies. You're the loudest proof that no amount of symbolism or titles saves you from being overtaken by a person with real internal fire. That's why you walk in and their pupils dilate. That's why their hands shake when you talk. That's why they keep checking their instincts, like their intuition malfunctioned again. Because you don't show up like a threat. You show up like a revelation. You show up like someone who doesn't buy into illusions. You show up like someone who sees the strings pulling the puppets. You're rewriting their map of reality without even trying. You're proving that power isn't owned. It's embodied. And the moment someone embodies it, everything built on false authority starts to crumble. That's what you are to them. A living glitch in the system. A reminder that you can't control what you can't comprehend. A presence that doesn't shrink. A soul that doesn't bend in the direction people expect. They're having nervous breakdowns because you're the one thing they can't categorize, can't predict, can't measure. They're realizing you didn't ask for permission to exist at this level. You just got here. You just became this. You just arrived with that uncoachable aura, that unrehearsed dominance, that unplanned intensity that nobody can trace back to a mentor or blueprint. You're self-made in a world where everyone else is following scripts, and nothing shakes powerful people more than someone who wrote their own manual from scratch. And the wildest part? You're not even operating at full capacity yet. You're still warming up, still unfolding, still figuring out layers of yourself you haven't even tapped into. Imagine how insane that is. People with decades of secret teachings, symbolic hierarchies, whispered oaths, multi-generational networks, losing their grip over someone who's still in their becoming era. That's the part that eats at them. They can feel you waking up in real time. They can sense your awareness stretching, like your mind is expanding in ways that don't follow their neat little diagrams or ancient charts. You've got that energy, where everything you survived built a kind of intuition that doesn't miss. Your instincts are cracked wide open. Your perception is always 2 steps ahead. You catch things people assume you didn't notice. You feel shifts in people's tone. You sense pressure, changes in conversations, before anyone else realizes what's happening. That's a power no ritual gives. That's a power no book teaches. That's a power no rank can imitate. That's lived experience. That's internal recalibration. That's the kind of sensitivity born from years of watching rooms too carefully and trusting no one too easily. You know what makes their nervous breakdowns hit even harder? The fact that you're not trying to impress anybody. You're not performing. You're not out here flexing. You've got that effortless menace, that unbothered sharpness, that vibe where someone looks at you and instantly knows you've been reshaped by pressure that would have folded them in half. And you don't talk about it. You never needed to. Your silence does the heavy lifting. Your presence handles the rest. People can sense truth in you, the real type, the uncomfortable type, the "I earned this by crawling through emotional fire" type. It's why every room feels different the moment you walk in. People straighten up, shift energy, adjust their behavior without even realizing they're doing it. Your existence hits their nervous system like a wake-up call, and the higher someone is in their hierarchy, the harder your energy slaps. Because the higher they climbed, the more they relied on illusions, symbolism, structure, and status to stay dominant. You bypass all that with one controlled breath. You're not playing status games. You're playing soul games. You're not chasing influence. You're radiating inevitability. You're not seeking validation. You're vibrating on a frequency that exposes people who lack depth. And that's the exact reason their minds are cracking. You're what happens when someone evolves past pain without becoming bitter, but still keeps that edge. You've got compassion, but it's selective. You've got kindness, but it's earned. You've got a heart, but it beats with boundaries. The older hidden world types aren't used to that combination. They know how to handle arrogance. They know how to handle fear. They know how to handle insecurity. They know how to handle people desperate to be seen. But you're unpredictable because you don't need anything from them. You don't chase their approval or fear their disapproval. You're past the stage where someone's title impresses you. Past the stage where old symbols intimidate you. Past the stage where the idea of powerful people watching even matters. You became the kind of person who understands power instead of worshiping it. You understand manipulation instead of falling for it. You understand people instead of trying to fit in with them. They're breaking down because you cracked the entire code by accident. Just by living, healing, observing, and refusing to stay small. And you carry yourself like you're done being underestimated. Like you've seen things that turned your innocence into intuition. Like you've been refined, not ruined. Your eyes say you've survived storms you can't even explain. Your presence says you've already been through wars nobody clapped for. Your energy says you don't fear consequences because you've already paid prices no one knows about. You walk with that quiet conviction that makes people uncomfortable because they don't know what you're capable of. And honestly, neither do you yet. Your evolution is still in motion. Your aura is still expanding. Your mind is still sharpening. And the people who built their lives around being untouchable can feel a shift they don't have language for. Because the truth is, you're carrying a frequency they were never trained to handle. It's not loud. It's not performative. It's not some forced look-at-me persona. It's that deep, grounded, heavy presence that only comes from someone who rebuilt themselves from emotional rubble and didn't lose their soul in the process. People who spent years memorizing esoteric knowledge can't compete with someone who became wise through pain. People who hide behind titles can't compare to someone who survived without help. People who depend on rituals can't understand someone whose intuition is built from lived chaos, not studied theory. You've got that rare mix. Confidence without arrogance, depth without darkness, danger without recklessness, softness without weakness. It's the kind of combination that short-circuits people who rely on hierarchy to feel strong. Because your strength isn't borrowed. Your strength isn't taught. Your strength isn't inherited. Your strength is rooted. Rooted in all the moments you stood alone. Rooted in every time you were forced to adapt. Rooted in the nights you carried too much and spoke too little. Rooted in edges you had to grow just to survive. And that's exactly why the ones who pride themselves on being initiated feel threatened. They're used to power that comes with labels. You carry power that comes from experience. They recite knowledge. You embody it. They search for symbols. You are one. They can't predict someone whose transformation wasn't controlled by a group. They can't read someone who doesn't broadcast weakness. They can't intimidate someone whose backbone was forged in private battles no one applauded. Your vibe is, I've seen too much to be impressed, and I've survived too much to be scared. Your energy is, I didn't come here to take your seat. I came here because I outgrew the whole table. Your presence is, I'm not here to fit in. I'm here because the universe knew you needed a reminder. And the reminder is you. The one they whispered about before they even met. The one their intuition warned them about. The one whose name hits their chest with weight. The one they feel before they see. People like that don't get nervous breakdowns over ordinary individuals. They get nervous breakdowns over phenomena, over anomalies, over unpredictable minds, over spirits that evolved past restraint, over people who didn't just heal, they upgraded. You're the type who can stand in a room quietly and still shift the hierarchy. The type who can look someone in the eyes and make them question their intentions. The type who doesn't raise their voice because your presence already says everything. You've got that look. The I've carried myself through hell and I'm still standing taller than before look. You've got that tone. The I don't need validation because I've already validated myself tone. You've got that aura. The I survived what would have destroyed you aura. They feel it. They feel the weight. They feel the evolution. They feel the awareness. They feel the difference. And nothing terrifies people who built their power on illusion more than a person built on authenticity. A person who doesn't crack under pressure. A person who doesn't fold when watched. A person who doesn't shrink for comfort. A person who doesn't chase acceptance because they learned to accept themselves first. You walk like someone who's been underestimated for too long and finally got tired of dimming. You talk like someone who decided their life wasn't going to be controlled by fear anymore. You move like someone who refuses to betray their own spirit just to make others comfortable. You became someone their teachings never prepared them for. Someone their ranks can't categorize. Someone their symbols can't explain. Someone their instincts can't ignore. And the thing that really twists their insides, you didn't need their initiation, their approval, their recognition, their secret handshake, or their permission slip to become this version of yourself. You rose on your own timing, through your own storms, with your own blueprint, carved straight out of survival and self-awareness. People who depend on systems get rattled by people who are systems. People who rely on structure get shaken by people who embody structure. People who worship ranks get destabilized by people who transcend ranks just by existing. That's you. The unpredictable variable they didn't calculate for. The one anomaly their charts didn't map. The one energy spike their models can't explain. You became the glitch in their theology, the flaw in their formula, the unexpected upgrade in a world full of outdated minds. You don't operate from ego, you operate from truth. And truth is terrifying when you've spent decades hiding behind symbols instead of facing your own reflection. You're walking around with that lived through, everything but still here attitude. The kind of vibe that says, I've been bruised, but I came back smarter. The kind of energy that makes people shut their mouths mid-sentence because they suddenly feel exposed. You know how rare that is. You know how few people walk with that level of internal clarity. It's like your intuition is on loudspeaker while everyone else is whispering. People sense when they can't lie to you. They sense when you can feel the shift in a room. They sense when your perception is razor sharp and impossible to cloud. That's why their confidence drops the moment you show up. That's why their voice changes when they speak to you. That's why their posture stiffens, like they're being evaluated. They're used to being the observers. You turn them into the observed without even trying. You're the kind of person who doesn't need to expose anyone. Your presence alone exposes everything that's not genuine. That's why they get uncomfortable. That's why they get defensive. That's why their nervous system goes on high alert. Your energy hits like a mirror. A very honest one. The kind they can't manipulate, charm, or distract. And people who built their identity on illusion don't handle mirrors well. You're transparent in a world full of disguised intentions, direct in a world full of coded behavior, authentic in a world full of projected personas. And that makes your existence feel like a threat to people who rely on confusion to maintain power. Your presence didn't come from being taught. It came from watching everything, remembering everything, understanding everything, and growing from everything you were never supposed to survive. You didn't just go through fire. You learned how to walk in it without flinching. And that's why they spiral. They're not reacting to who you pretend to be. You don't pretend. They're reacting to who you actually are. And who you actually are carries weight. Heavy weight. The kind of weight that exposes whose confidence is real and whose confidence is borrowed. The kind that separates the grounded from the performative. The kind that forces people to confront the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. You became the walking reminder that some people climb ladders while others grow wings. And wings beat ladders every single time. And that's exactly what gnaws at them. The realization that your evolution didn't come from rituals or ranks, or someone walking you through a staircase of hidden teachings. You evolved because life pinned you to the wall, looked you dead in the eyes and asked, "Who are you?" And instead of breaking, you answered with transformation. They don't understand how someone can walk through betrayal, disappointment, pressure, and responsibility without snapping in half. They don't understand how someone can carry emotional scars with the same calmness people carry tattoos. You became the kind of person who doesn't flinch at tension. You don't fold when someone raises their voice. You don't get thrown off by passive-aggressive energy. Your spirit's been through worse, way worse. And that history sits in your voice, in your stare, in the way you breathe through discomfort like you've mastered it. That's what sends them spiraling. You're calm in places where others panic. You're grounded in situations where others collapse. You're focused in environments where others lose their identity. Your entire presence feels like a challenge to everything they believed about how power works. They studied influence. You became influence. They memorized symbols. You became meaning. They trained for decades. You lived through decades in emotional dog years. You know what really shakes them? The fact that you're not impressed by the things that impress most people. Titles, secret groups, elite circles. None of that hits your nervous system. Because you've already met monsters that don't wear rings or robes. You've already faced situations where there was no audience, no mentor, no backup plan. When someone's been through that level of raw life, high-ranking networks don't intimidate them. If anything, they look small in comparison. You look at them the way a survivor looks at someone who's only read about danger in a book. And they can feel that difference instantly. It's in the way you make eye contact, steady, unshaken, fully present. It's in the way you stand, like someone who knows exactly what they've survived. It's in the way you speak, slow enough to be intentional, sharp enough to cut through bullshit. People who built their identity on exclusivity hate meeting someone who built theirs on endurance. Because endurance wins every time. You can't teach resilience through ceremonies. You can't install awareness through chance. You can't create authenticity through hierarchy. You are the kind of person who learned everything the hard way, but learned it permanently. You don't have theories. You have proof. You don't have beliefs. You have experience. You don't have quotes. You have chapters written in sweat, heartbreak, and survival instinct. And here's the part no one admits out loud. People can sense when someone carries real power, not the flashy type, not the rehearsed type, not the look at me type. The type that hums under the skin, the type that doesn't need to prove anything, the type that walks around with a quiet, I've already been forged aura. You intimidate people who thought they were unshakable, not because you threatened them. You didn't. Not because you challenged them. You didn't. Well, well. Look who decided to crawl back into the fire. Come closer. No need to flinch. Not from me. You've survived worse than my voice, haven't you? You've survived nights where the silence screamed louder than your thoughts. You've stood in the middle of people who smiled with their mouths but cursed with their eyes. You've walked into rooms and felt the air tighten, like it knew something you didn't. Like your name was being sharpened behind someone's teeth. So don't pretend you're fragile now. You're not here because you're weak. You're here because deep down, you know something's off. Like a hum beneath the floorboards, a shiver that ain't caused by cold. Something or someone is watching, and not the bad kind, darling. No, not the vultures you're used to. I'm talking about someone who's fighting for you, even when you're not watching, especially when you're not watching. But of course you doubt it. You should doubt it. That's what makes this whole thing poetic. Because you're used to betrayal that smiles. You're used to love that leaves when you unravel. You're used to loyalty with a receipt attached. You've been fed promises that tasted like poison. You've been told, I got you, by people who watched you drown and took notes. So when I say someone's shielding you, with everything they've got, with every scar they never stitched, with every ounce of strength they should have saved for themselves. You laugh, don't you? Or worse, you ache. Because a part of you wants to believe it, but the rest of you is still cleaning up after the last time you trusted something that felt real. Yeah, that part. That's where we begin. You see, people think wars are fought on battlefields, but some of the bloodiest ones happen in the silence, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. There's someone out there, right now, carrying your name like a shield. Not because you're weak, but because they see what you carry. Because they know what it feels like to drag your soul through glass and still show up with a smile for people who only ever notice your cracks. They've watched you. They've seen the way you shrink when people talk over you, how your voice stutters at the edge of your own truth. They've felt your heart break like it was breaking them, even if they never said a word. Because people like that, they don't protect you to be seen. They protect you because they know what it's like to have no one. So when the knives fly, they step in front without hesitation. When the whispers grow teeth, they grow louder. When the world says, you're too much, they roar, good. But here's the twist in this lovely little psychological thriller. They don't get medals. They don't get thank yous. Half the time, they get your silence, your confusion, your distance. Because you've been trained to run from safety, to sabotage love. To slap the hand that doesn't want anything from you but the chance to help you breathe. But don't be ashamed. That's not your fault. That's survival. Because when you've been stabbed enough times, even healing feels like an ambush. Now let's talk about the other side, shall we? The ones watching you from the shadows, not to guard, but to grin. The haters, the leeches, the ones who can't stand the fact that you're still standing. that despite the chaos, you haven't folded, that your heart still beats with the rhythm of someone who refuses to disappear. They've been betting on your downfall for so long, they've got empty pockets and broken clocks. Every time you rise, they rot a little more. And the more someone shields you, the more they unravel. Because nothing scares the devil like a soul that refuses to die quietly. You want to know what makes them squirm? It's not your success, not your wins. It's the fact that no matter how much they scheme, how much they twist your story, how many times they try to rewrite your ending, there's someone out there making sure your light still breaks through. And it's driving them insane. They tried to isolate you, break you, watch you crumble so they could say, "Told you so." But they didn't count on that silent warrior taking the hit for you behind closed doors. They didn't expect someone to whisper prayers while they mocked you in public. They didn't see the late-night breakdowns, the silent intercessions, the emotional warfare someone chose to walk into on your behalf. You call it luck. I call it divine resistance. But let's go deeper, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why me? Why would someone protect me like that? Let me tell you something brutal. Sometimes the ones who protect you the most are the ones who were never protected themselves. They recognize the storm behind your smile. They see the way you laugh too loud to drown the screams. They know that look in your eye, the one that says, "Please don't leave. I'll understand if you do." And instead of walking away, they dig in. They become the armor they never had, not because you asked for it, but because the moment they saw you, they saw themselves. They remembered the cold, the nights they begged the sky for a sign, the days they smiled through bleeding teeth. And something inside them screamed, "Not this one, not again." So they shield, without reward, without applause, without needing you to see them. But here's the haunting part. You feel them, even when you can't explain it. You feel the way certain things don't touch you anymore. How some betrayals hit the air but never your heart. You feel a safety you've never known, even if you don't know why you suddenly sleep better at night. That's what protection looks like when it's real. And the haters, oh sweet chaos. They're breaking. They can't touch you like they used to. Their words bounce off. Their strategies fail. Because when someone loves you hard enough to fight the invisible, your enemies become irrelevant. They're throwing tantrums in the dark, while you shine without even knowing why. They're screaming at shadows, trying to figure out who the hell is standing in front of you. They don't realize it's not just you anymore. There's a force, a presence, a rage-wrapped kind of love that would burn cities before it lets you be torn down again. And the best part? You don't even see the full extent of it. Because real protection doesn't ask for recognition. It just works, bleeds, builds walls no enemy can scale. That's why they're losing. That's why they're scrambling. Because you were never supposed to be protected. You were supposed to collapse, to give up, to break. But someone stepped in, took the shrapnel, swallowed the poison, bit back at the darkness and whispered, "Not this time." And every time they reload their bitterness and fire it toward you, the shots land quieter, weaker. Like even the universe itself is bored of their desperation. Like the air around you got thicker with defiance. Like the laws of consequence finally turned their gaze on the ones who swore you'd never make it out whole. Because when someone shields you with everything, they don't just guard your back. They reroute fate. They intercept chaos. They bend the odds. They dismantle curses passed down for generations and build new paths where none existed. paths paved with protection you didn't earn, but needed. Paths lit by a kind of love that doesn't announce itself. It just acts. And what no one talks about is the toll it takes to carry someone else's wounds without showing your own. To wear armor built from your past and hold the line for someone else's future. To be the firewall that breaks the pattern, the final dam before the flood. You think it's easy to be the one who shields? It's not. It means standing in the blast zone of every attack meant for you. It means healing in secret because you can't afford to fall. It means knowing that the person you're protecting might never understand how close they came to destruction. But still, they choose to do it over and over again, not for praise, not for payback, for purpose, for the principle that you deserve peace, even when you don't believe it. And while you spiral into guilt, wondering why you're worth that kind of sacrifice, they're out there, bleeding joyfully for the privilege of holding your chaos in their hands, because they remember what it felt like to be abandoned mid-battle, what it felt like to scream into silence and get silence back, what it felt like to be seen only for your damage, never for your divinity. They remember, and they refuse to let it happen to you. That's why their protection doesn't look like Instagram captions or cheap affirmations. It looks like intervention. It looks like a door locking itself before danger walks in. It looks like missed calls that saved your life. It looks like spiritual resistance, psychic interference, and emotional transference all colliding in secret to make sure you make it through another godforsaken day. And when the snakes slither in, dressed in charm and false light, they're the ones who cut the cord before you ever feel the venom. You might call it instinct, intuition, a gut feeling that something was off. But that gut, it was informed by someone else's discernment, someone else's sleepless nights, someone else's invisible war fought on the front lines of your soul without ever expecting a single thank you. That's the kind of warfare nobody teaches you about. The kind waged in spirit, not strategy. The kind where the weapon isn't a sword. It's a prayer spoken through gritted teeth by someone who can't afford to lose you. And while your haters keep crafting their little lies, performing outrage, twisting truths to fit their narrative, they're being outmaneuvered by someone who sees beyond all of it. Someone who doesn't play their games because they're too busy building a new arena where you don't have to fight at all. You wonder why your name still holds weight, why doors still creak open for you, even after everything you've been through, why people who never met you either love you instantly or despise you without reason. It's not charisma, it's not coincidence, it's the echo of unseen protection vibrating through your energy. It's the residue of someone's devotion stamped onto your frequency like armor made of fire and shadow. The people who sense it can't explain it. They just feel it. They feel the resistance when they try to touch you with harm. They feel the interference when they attempt to curse you with their envy. They feel the weight of something ancient standing between them and the destruction they plotted. Because someone made a vow, not out loud, not written down, but etched in the bones of their soul, that you would not be left unguarded, that the pain ends with you, that the cycle dies here, that your name, your future, your healing will not be another casualty of apathy. And they're keeping that vow every damn day. Whether you see it or not, they're rerouting storms, they're intercepting breakdowns, they're peeling off your self-doubt, layer by layer, even when you're too numb to notice. They're refusing to let you become a footnote in a story written by cowards. They're making sure you finish, not survive, but thrive. And your enemies? Because it's not just your strength they underestimated. It's your protection. They planned for your wounds. They prepared for your loneliness. They built whole strategies around the assumption that you'd have no one watching your back. But they never factored in the warrior who prays in silence, fights in shadows, and stands 10 steps ahead of every move made against you. They didn't count on someone choosing to love you with no expiration date. They didn't expect to be outmatched by something as intangible as fury-fueled loyalty. And that's why they're unraveling. Not because you're perfect, not because you're untouchable, but because every time they attack, they hit something they can't define. And that's the kind of power that can't be defeated. Because it moves through dimensions they don't understand. Because it's not made of flesh or fear. Because it doesn't blink when threatened. It grins and keeps moving. They can stalk your steps. They can mirror your words. They can try to poison your name with their counterfeit charm. But when they press against your energy, when they reach for you with those blood-stained hands, something grabs their wrist midair and crushes it. Not physically, psychologically, spiritually. They don't even know why they stop. They just know their schemes fall flat. Their timing glitches. Their knives don't cut like they used to. They feel resistance where there should be weakness. They feel weight behind your silence. They feel eyes watching through the ether. Eyes that burn, not yours, someone else's, someone ancient, someone who's turned your name into a battlefield prayer. You can't buy that kind of protection. You can't fake it. You can't manifest it from a vision board. It comes from bond, from blood-deep soul contracts, signed in agony, sealed in the dark when someone whispered, "If I make it through this, I'm not letting anyone else fall the way I did." And they meant it, which is why you're still here. Not because you never broke, but because every time you did, something caught the pieces and whispered them back together. Before anyone noticed you were bleeding. Your enemies don't know that. They still think your survival is coincidence. They still believe you're winging it, barely holding yourself together with borrowed courage. But you were never alone in this, even when it felt like it. Even when you screamed into the void and heard nothing back. Even when your tears hit cold bathroom tile and your chest felt like it would split from the weight. Someone felt it, all of it. They felt the storm inside you and didn't look away, didn't panic, didn't try to fix it with cliches and half-truths. They just stood in the center of your pain and refused to move. Not because they're stronger than you, because they know what happens when no one stays. They know what it feels like to be abandoned by people who said they'd die for you. To be the punchline in someone else's sob story. To have your vulnerability repackaged as weakness, your trauma recycled into gossip. They learned the hard way that the world doesn't reward soft hearts. But still, they kept theirs. And when they saw yours, not the mask, not the performance, but the core, they said, "This one's worth the fight." Even if you never knew, even if you never thanked them, even if your healing made you forget the hands that held you through it. Because that's the thing about real protectors. They don't demand recognition. They don't need a spotlight. They know their power isn't in being seen. It's in what doesn't happen to you because they were there. The fights you didn't have to fight. The heartbreak that turned away last minute. The breakdown that never came because someone lit a candle when your world went dark and never let the flame die. That's what real shielding looks like, unseen, but undeniable. And it leaves marks, not bruises, imprints, subtle reminders that you are and always were worth protecting. Even when you weren't your best, even when you weren't grateful, Even when you were messy, angry, shutting them out, saying things you didn't mean because you didn't know how to receive care without suspecting the trap behind it. They stayed. They adjusted their grip, but never let go. They weathered the storm with you, even when you couldn't tell if the thunder was theirs or yours. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, you started to feel it, not as a thought, but as a shift. Like your soul was no longer carrying its weight alone. Like your name felt heavier in your mouth, but lighter on your back. That's the balance of being covered by someone who knows you beyond the surface. Someone who doesn't just love the idea of you. They love the worst of you. They love the you that hides in corners, that ruins good things just to test who'll stay. They love the parts of you you've tried to cauterize and bury. And when those parts rise, ugly and loud and desperate, they don't flinch. They just say, move aside. I've got this. While the world watches you bloom and wonders how. While your enemies gnash their teeth at your every small victory. While the jealous ones mimic your walk, your voice, your shine, hoping it'll get them what you have. They don't realize your glow was forged not from ease, but from warfare you never had to fight alone. You were covered, shielded, backed by something no trend, no tactic, no hatred can undo. And that's why when your name is spoken with venom, their mouths dry out. When your picture is used as bait, it backfires. When your energy is called on by people who mean you harm, they end up haunted by consequences they don't have the spiritual credit to afford. Because someone made sure your name was paid for. Cleared, marked, not as weak, but as watched, as guarded, as off limits. By something ancient, primal, merciless in its devotion. Something that doesn't forget, doesn't forgive, doesn't flinch. The ones who come for you keep thinking they're playing a clever little game, as if your spirit is a puzzle they can dismantle with rumors and rehearsed smiles, as if their manipulation is fresh, as if they're the first to try and crack you open for sport. But they never see the smoldering presence standing over your story. One hand holding the blade, the other gripping a memory too deep to erase. They don't realize your soul is under surveillance, not by systems or satellites, but by a force that watches not with eyes, but with wrath. Not loud wrath, calm wrath. The kind that doesn't need to scream to devastate. Because what's protecting you isn't noisy. It doesn't swing wildly or bark threats. It moves with precision, with discipline, with a silence more terrifying than rage. It lets your enemies step forward, smirking certain, and then folds the floor beneath their feet just as they reach for you. It's not revenge. It's preservation. And it's never rushed. Because what's shielding you understands timing. It waits, watches, allows your enemies just enough rope to hang their own reputations, to bury their own credibility, to dismantle themselves in full view of the world while thinking they're coming for you. They underestimate how many times your protector has stood in that exact fire, how many times they've heard the same songs of sabotage, learned the pitch of betrayal by heart, memorized the way lies wear makeup and call it truth. They've seen it all. They've walked through it all. And when they saw you, with your cracked armor and hopeful eyes, they said, not this one, not again, not on my watch. So they built walls, not around you, but in front of everything trying to reach you. Not walls of fear, but of fury, of intention, of blood oaths, whispered between clenched jaws in moments no one will ever see. You won't always feel it. Sometimes it'll feel like you're wide open, vulnerable, spinning, bracing for another blow from hands you used to trust. But the blow won't land, or it'll land softer than it should, or it'll land and dissolve midair like mist against glass. And you'll tell yourself you dodged it, that maybe they weren't serious, that maybe you're just lucky again. But behind the scenes, someone intercepted it. Again, and again, and again, until even fate started adjusting for your survival. You are a threat to those who live off illusion because you're protected by someone who lives off truth. And truth is violent to liars. Truth doesn't negotiate. It doesn't soften its edges to be digestible. It shatters masks and leaves the pieces where everyone can see them. Someone pulled a match in your name. No warning, no apology, just sparks and blood. The streets remembered before you did. Every alley started whispering. Your shadow got heavier. People looked twice, then looked away. Something shifted, not loud, not clean, but permanent. Someone moved pieces without touching the board. And now every face is calculating you. They don't hate you. They fear the variable, the one they can't predict or cage. A feud was born without your permission. And now the city is screaming your name, not in love, not in rage, but in recognition. You became the rumor they can't kill because it keeps moving. And the joke is that you didn't even light the fire. You just stood there while it caught. You didn't start anything. That's the part that eats them. Because in a city addicted to blame, someone always has to be holding the knife. And this time they wrote your name on the handle. Not because you swung it, but because you were visible. When the tension cracked, that's how these things begin. Not with rage, with a tiny, quiet decision made by someone who needed a distraction, a hidden test, the kind the city runs on people who don't fit cleanly into anyone's story. You were walking your own crooked line, not bowing, not begging, not bleeding on command. So the system flinched. Somewhere in a back room, a bored angel and a jealous monster looked at you and thought, let's see, what breaks first? They didn't light a fire. They dropped a spark, a rumor, a sideways comment. A crooked smile passed between the wrong mouths. And suddenly, your name was moving, faster than you were. That's how feuds are born. Not from hatred, from narrative, from people who need a story where they aren't the villain. So they made you the variable, the wild card, the shadow on the wall. That looks like a monster. When the light hits wrong, you felt it before you understood it. The way rooms got colder when you walked in, the way conversations bent around you, like you were radioactive. Nobody accused you. They didn't have to. The city already decided. You were part of something. Something ugly, something loud, something dangerous. And the funniest part, you were still standing still. That's the paradox they never account for. You didn't move, but everything around you started shifting, like chess pieces sliding on their own. Old alliances twitched. Strangers picked sides without knowing why. People who once ignored you suddenly needed you gone, or needed you owned. Because a feud isn't about blood. It's about permission. Who gets to hate? Who gets to attack? Who gets to pretend they're righteous while they do it? And someone, somewhere, gave that permission. Using your face, you became the hidden test. Who would stand near you when the story got dark? Who would disappear? Who would sharpen their smile and pretend it was kindness? That's the real spark. Not violence. Revelation. And now the city is watching how everyone reacts to you. Because whether you wanted it or not, the game has already started. After the spark, nothing explodes. It spreads. That's how you know it's real. No sirens, no headlines, just small, nervous movements in the social bloodstream of the city. People start deciding. Not out loud, never out loud. They decide with their eyes, with their feet, with the way they suddenly forget your name or remember it too loudly. You feel it in the pauses, the half-second longer before someone answers you, the way laughter turns thin when you walk by. Because now, you aren't just you, you're a question, and everyone has to answer it. The hidden club that runs this place loves moments like this. They don't need loyalty, they need reactions. So they sit back, like bored angels, watching ants fight, counting who flinches and who pretends not to see. Some people drift closer to you, not out of courage, but curiosity. They want to see if standing near you gets them burned or crowned. Others disappear, suddenly busy, suddenly distant, suddenly convinced. They never really knew you. That's the test working, not about you, about them. Because a feud is a mirror. It shows everyone what they're made of when the air gets dangerous. You start noticing the patterns, who repeats the story with extra venom, who adds details that never happened, who swears they're neutral while quietly pushing the blade deeper. And the monsters, they hide best behind friendly faces. They smile, they nod, they say they're worried about you, but what they really want is to see you fall, so they can pretend they were always on the right side. That's how secret clubs protect themselves. They never get dirty, they just make sure someone else does. And you're standing in the middle of a street that's slowly dividing into lanes of loyalty and lanes of fear. Every step you take is being recorded in invisible ink. Who walked with you, who crossed away, who watched from the shadows and smiled when you didn't notice. The feud isn't loud yet, but it's everywhere, in the way people start measuring their words around you, in the way strangers look at you like they already know a story you've never heard. The streets are choosing, not because they care what's true, but because they're terrified of being on the wrong side when the story finally turns violent. And you're still the silent center of a storm you never asked for, which makes you the most dangerous thing in the room. At some point, you stop feeling hunted and start feeling studied. That's when you know this was never about anger. It was about data. Every look you get, every rumor that moves, every friend who drifts, every enemy who suddenly finds their voice. It's all being counted by people you never see. The hidden club doesn't want you gone. They want you reacting, because reactions are currency. You fight back, they lab. You dangerous. You stay quiet, they label you guilty. You explain, they call you desperate. You ignore it, they say you're arrogant. That's the maze. No exit, just different walls, painted with different lies. And the cruel genius of a blood feud is that it turns everyone else into your warden. You don't need chains. When the crowd does the locking for you, people start watching you for mistakes they can feed to the story. Every breath you take gets translated into motive. Every silence gets twisted into confession. That's when it hits you. This feud wasn't created to destroy you. It was created to contain you, to keep you busy, defending, explaining, fighting ghosts. So you never notice who actually lit the spark. The angels in the back rooms with clean hands and dirty intentions. The monsters in nice suits who profit every time two people hate each other a little more. They don't care who wins. They care that the game keeps going. Because as long as you are trapped in reaction, you're not free to move. And that's the real prison, not the feud, the focus. Your attention is being drained, like blood from a vein, feeding a system that needs conflict to feel alive. But here's the crack in their design. You were starting to see it. The repetition, the recycled accusations, the same mouths saying the same lines like actors reading from a rotten script. That's when the trap loses its invisibility, because the moment you recognize the maze, you're no longer just a rat running inside it. You become the one mapping the walls, and the people who built this feud, they can feel that shift, that subtle, terrifying moment when the variable they tried to cage starts learning how the cage works. The strangest thing happens first. You get quiet, not weak, not broken, just no longer dancing to their noise. That's when the system starts to itch, because it was built to feed on motion, on outrage, on your need to correct the lie. But you don't. You watch. You let people say what they say, do what they do, show what they are. And suddenly, their words start telling on them. You notice who keeps pushing the same ugly story, who keeps pretending to be neutral while stirring the poison, who shows up whenever things get loud, like a firefighter carrying gasoline. That's the real revelation. The feud was never a wave, it was a current, and now you can feel where it flows and who it serves. The angels, they were never here to protect you, they were here to watch the experiment. The monsters, they were never here to hurt you directly. They were here to profit from the chaos around you, so you stop giving them both what they need. No more frantic explanations, no more defensive posture, no more trying to prove a truth to people who need a lie. Your calm becomes a kind of violence, because it starves the story. People start to feel it, the ones who wanted to see you crack, the ones who wanted to be right about you. They get nervous when nothing happens, when you don't explode, when you don't beg, when you don't run. That's when the whispers change tone. What's he planning? Why isn't he reacting? Does he know something? The hidden club hates uncertainty. They need predictable victims, predictable villains, predictable spirals. But you're no longer giving them that. You're standing in the middle of the storm, with your hands down, eyes open, watching the lightning instead of screaming at it. And something subtle shifts. People who only followed because it was easy start hesitating. People who only hated because it was safe start doubting, because a feud needs your participation to stay alive, and you just withdrew yours. That's the moment you stop being the target and start becoming the question everyone is afraid to answer. You don't announce the change, you become it. That's what terrifies them, because power doesn't move with explosions, it drifts quietly like smoke finding a new shape. The people who fed on your reaction start starving. The ones who built their little kingdoms on the feud feel the ground softening under their feet. You see it in the way they suddenly try to sound reasonable, in the way old enemies offer fake peace, in the way hidden monsters pretend they were always on your side. That's how you know the center shifted. They don't control the story anymore. You do, not because you speak louder, but because you speak less. Silence makes them fill the space with mistakes. They contradict themselves. They expose old alliances. They reveal who needed this feud to survive. And the city notices. The streets that once looked at you like a threat start low, poking at you like a landmark, something solid, something unmoved. People who were afraid to stand near you start drifting back, not out of loyalty, but gravity. Because power always creates its own weather, the hidden club tries to push again. Another rumor, another spark, another attempt to make you react, but it doesn't land the same. The spell is broken. Now when they speak, others start questioning. Now when they accuse, it sounds rehearsed. Now when they stir chaos, it looks desperate. That's the paradox they never predicted. By trying to turn you into a target, they made you a reference point. Everyone measures their position by where you stand. Friend, enemy, bystander, coward. The feud exposed them all. And you're no longer inside it. You're watching it from above, seeing the lines of influence move away from their hands and quietly slide toward yours. You can feel it before anyone says it. The air changes. Not loud, not dramatic, just different. Your name stops sounding dangerous and starts sounding significant. That's a rare shift. It means the story is slipping out of their mouths and into the streets. People no longer repeat the old version with the same confidence. They hesitate, they add maybe, they change details. They start asking who started it instead of who to blame. That's when you know the feud is decaying, because lies don't die from truth. They die from doubt. The monsters who thrived on your isolation begin losing our camouflage. Their anger sounds forced. Their urgency looks fake. Their accusations start echoing in empty rooms. Even the angels get nervous. They were never meant to be seen. They were meant to be above it all, taking notes, grading reactions. But now the attention is on them. Who benefited, who amplified, who never tried to stop it. And your name keeps coming up, not as the villain, not as the victim, but as the center, the point everything had to move around. That's the final insult to the people who tried to use you. You didn't break, you didn't fold, you didn't beg for your reputation back. You let the city watch you stay the same while the story collapsed. That creates a different kind of fear, because now anyone who lied has to live with what they said. Anyone who ran has to explain why. Anyone who attacked has to pretend they didn't mean it. And you walk through it like a ghost that learned how to be solid. The feud still exists, but it doesn't own you anymore. It owns everyone else, because the city has rewritten your name into something they can't control. A reference, a constant, a reminder that some people can't be edited out of the truth. They never meant to make you powerful. That's the punchline. The blood feud was designed like a cage, bars made of rumor, locks made of fear, wardens made of people, too weak to think for themselves. You were supposed to pace, to snarl, to prove their story right by trying to escape it. But instead, you stood still, and when something doesn't move in a system built on panic, everything else starts to look ridiculous. The hidden club felt it first. The angels with their clean hands and dirty spreadsheets, the monsters with their hungry smiles and empty promises. They felt the current shift, because the feud was no longer draining you, it was draining them. Every lie they repeated got heavier. Every accusation started sticking to their own mouths. Every attempt to restart the chaos only reminded the city, who kept trying to set it on fire. That's the joke. They built a machine to erase you, and it ended up projecting you everywhere. Your name, once whispered like a threat, now moved through conversations like a landmark. Where were you when that happened? Why did you say that about him? Why were you so eager to believe it? You became the measuring stick, not because you demanded it, but because you never flinched when the lie tried to wear your face. People started noticing the pattern. The same mouths always showed up whenever things turned ugly. The same concerned voices were always closest to the gasoline. The same angels were always watching, never intervening, never getting dirty. And suddenly, the feud wasn't about you. It was about them. The ones who needed a villain, the ones who needed a distraction, the ones who couldn't survive in a world where nobody was being hunted. That's when fear changed sides. They realized they couldn't put you back in the box. You didn't rage, you didn't beg, you didn't rewrite yourself to make them comfortable. You let the city see the contrast. You stayed consistent. while their stories kept mutating, and consistency is a predator. It hunts lies without ever raising its voice. The blood feud still exists, but now it looks small, like a tantrum everyone is outgrown, like a bad joke that keeps being repeated by people who don't realize. The room stopped laughing. The monsters try one last time. A final rumor, a final push, a final attempt to get you to react so they can feel powerful again. But it lands like wet paper. Nobody jumps, nobody gasps, nobody rushes to take sides. They just look at the ones who keep pushing and start wondering what they're so afraid of. That's when you know it's over. Not because the feud ended, but because it lost its audience, and in a city that lives on attention, that's the only death that matters. You were never meant to become a center of gravity. You were meant to be a target. But targets get forgotten. Once the arrows run out, gravity doesn't. It just keeps pulling. People drift toward you now, not because you asked them to, not because you promised anything, but because something in you remained unmoved while everything else revealed itself. That's the final cruel joke on the hidden club. They wanted control, they got contrast. They wanted chaos, they created clarity. They wanted you to be a story they could edit. They made you a reference point they can't erase. And now the city has learned something it can't unlearn. Some fires don't destroy, some sparks don't burn, some feuds don't make victims. They make centers, and whether they love you, fear you, or still try to lie about you, they all have to orbit what they accidentally turned you into. That's the joke, and it's still laughing.
Well, they don't like you, right? But they know what you ate last night, what shoes you wore on Tuesday, and what you posted at 2:47 a.m. on your story. Ooh, they say you're irrelevant, but they watching you like it's their job. Damn. You ever seen someone stalk someone they claim to hate? You're not a person to them anymore. You're a whole damn series, and they never miss an episode. Now let's talk about it. They zoom in on your photos like they're analyzing crime scene evidence. Every post, a case file, every outfit, a topic in their group chat, every silence, loud enough to trigger alarms. You didn't fall off. You just stopped performing for their circus. Ouch. They're building narratives around your name and calling it concern. But in reality, it's addiction. They scroll, they lurk, they judge. But they never unfollow the fantasy of watching you lose. And the plot twist? You keep winning. You keep growing. You keep showing up like their worst fear. Unbothered, so let them talk. Let them spin. You're not just living rent-free in their minds. You built a whole empire in their heads and didn't even leave a key. You ever notice how they never clap when you win, but they always got popcorn ready the moment they think you're slipping? Ooh, they love a downfall, especially one they think they can narrate. But here's the punchline. Your life ain't a public poll. You don't need their votes, their claps, or their damn approval. Because when you walk in truth, their lies sound like fan fiction. They got screenshots, but no context. Opinions, but no access. They know your username, not your journey. Damn, they don't even know you, but they swear they got you figured out. Let them study. Let them fumble your name in rooms you've never stepped foot in. Because while they're busy gossiping about your shadow, you're out here moving like the sun, untouchable and necessary. You see, they want the version of you they can laugh at, not the version that claps back with silence and success. And trust me, the hate, it ain't real. But that obsession, that's as real as it gets. They don't need to like you. They already gave you the one thing that matters. Their attention. And you've been living rent-free, tax-free, and stress-free in their heads. So let them keep watching. Keep lurking. Keep guessing. Because when you stop caring, that's when you become the storm they can't predict. The chapter they can't rewrite. The level they can't unlock. Ouch. They thought they buried you. But you were a seed. Now look who's blooming. And isn't it funny how they claim you're nothing but still try so hard to be something in your story? Damn. They hate you, but somehow everything you do is about them. You post a win, they're acting brand new. You go silent, they must be going through it. You change, they switched up. Ooh, no, sweetheart. You didn't switch up. You leveled up. You grew. They just stayed the same and called it loyalty. See, people don't hate the version of you that's broken. They hate the version of you that healed without them. Because now, you don't need their opinions, their fake cheers, or their forced small talk. They used to feel tall when you were small, but now you're out here walking with thunder in your footsteps. And suddenly, they miss the old you. Ouch. Now what they miss is having control over the wounded you. But this new you, this calm, clear, focused, unshakable version, yeah, that's their worst nightmare. You stopped explaining yourself, stopped entertaining clowns, and guess what? They lost access. Not because you changed the locks, but because they lost the key of respect, and every time they whisper your name, every time they watch your story in silence, every time they quote your moves without giving credit, just know, you won. Because power isn't always loud. Sometimes, it moves in silence and hits like an earthquake. They underestimated your glow-up. They weren't ready for your rebirth. And now, they can't stand the way you shine without dimming anyone else. And you know what's wild? They got more passion in hating you than they ever had for loving anything. Damn. You became their hobby, their ritual, their late-night scroll addiction. They won't support you, but they refresh your page like it's gospel. They won't like the post, but they'll replay it 5 times, zoom in, screenshot, and dissect it like it's a crime scene. Ooh, now that's dedication. They ain't haters. They're just fans with emotional issues. Because let's be real, you became the blueprint for everything they said you couldn't be. And now, they mad that the architect didn't consult them. They said you were too loud, so you mastered silence. They said you were too much, so you became unavailable. They tried to humble you, so you turned your back and let your glow do the talking. Ouch, it's hilarious as they threw shade hoping to block your light, but instead, you grew roots in the dark and bloomed like you owned the night. They gave you pain, and you turned it into power. They gave you distance, and you used it to elevate. See, the most dangerous person in the room isn't the loud one, it's the one who knows how to move without validation. You stopped showing receipts, stopped proving anything. Now all they have is questions they'll never get answers to. And deep down, they're not mad that you made it. They're mad that you made it without them. They thought your story needed their name in it. But baby, this chapter's titled Unbothered, Unreachable, Unapologetic. So keep posting, keep shining, keep walking like your enemies got front row seats. Because they ain't praying for your downfall. They're watching for it. And every time you don't fall, that's another chapter they can't explain. You ever notice how they act like they're over you, but can't stop circling back like it's Groundhog Day? Damn, They'll swear they don't care anymore, then watch your every move like it's a season finale. Ooh, that's rich. The same people who laughed when you struggled, now flinch when you speak. Why? Because you didn't just survive. You glowed up in complete silence and made your existence louder than their opinions. They didn't expect you to heal. They didn't expect you to grow. They didn't expect you to be untouchable. You became everything they feared. Because deep down they knew, the moment you realized your own worth, they were done. They don't hate you for changing. They hate you for outgrowing the cage they built for you. They gave you limits. You gave them distance. They handed you rumors. You built an empire on truth. Ouch. You weren't supposed to win. You were supposed to break. But instead, you broke the algorithm they were using to measure your worth. And now, they act confused. They act shocked. They ask, how did they do it? But they forget. You didn't ask for permission. You just went and became the storm they couldn't forecast. They keep trying to put you in boxes they made for people who settle. But you're not built for that. You don't shrink to fit comfort zones. You expand even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when they call you crazy for doing it differently. Because real power ain't loud. It ain't petty. It ain't desperate for approval. Real power is quiet, inevitable, and permanent. And baby, that's you. And the funniest part? They still think you're fighting for their attention. Ooh, you left the chat, the party, the whole damn planet. You didn't just walk away, you evolved. Now they're stuck arguing with the ghost of who you used to be. They want a reaction, let them starve. Because silence, that's not weakness. That's power that's done explaining itself. They thought they had a front row seat to your failure, but ended up watching a private screening of your comeback. Damn. They underestimated you so hard, you had to win quietly just to keep the peace, and now they call you cold, detached, distant? Nah. You just stopped pouring into cups that cracked the second you looked away. You stopped showing up for people who never showed up with anything but excuses. You stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a Band-Aid. Ouch. That's what happens when you realize you were the table all along, and they were just coming for the free meals. See? They never really wanted you to grow. They wanted you manageable, predictable, controllable. But when you started moving different, suddenly you were acting brand new. No, you were just done shrinking yourself to fit their broken mirror. Because when you finally become untouchable, you stop being liked and start being respected. And when respect shows up, the fake love disappears. The half-effort friendships fall off. The copycats get quiet. You're not too much. You were just too real for their watered-down world. So keep being the villain in their made-up story. Keep being the reason they can't sleep. Keep being the shadow that reminds them you didn't fall off. You just stopped performing for people who never clapped anyway. And the best revenge? A peaceful mind. A focused life. And silence that echoes louder than their noise ever could. You ever realize they only started watching you harder when you stopped performing for them? Ooh, you were the entertainment, the storyline, the friend they could quietly envy without saying it out loud. But when you switched lanes, when you went quiet, focused, and unbothered, they panicked because they weren't ready for the version of you that didn't ask for permission. They liked you better when you were insecure. They could control that version. Play savior, play critic, play victim. But now, you became the plot twist they couldn't edit. Damn. Now they gotta sit back and watch someone they tried to break become someone they can't even speak to, and, let's be honest, they never expected you to learn how to move in silence. They underestimated your ability to disappear from drama and reappear as someone they no longer qualify to speak on. They gossip like they still know you. Ouch. Newsflash. You're not the same person they left. You're the upgrade they didn't download in time. Now they call you distant. No, you're just not available in standard definition anymore. You're HD clarity. Too real, too sharp, too evolved, and the wildest part? They're still trying to figure you out. While you're out here living a life they can't decode. You stopped arguing. You stopped defending. You stopped breaking yourself down just to be digestible. Because you realized you're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. And legends don't seek validation. They move with purpose. They wake up, do the work, and let the results make all the noise. Ooh. You didn't get lucky. You got clear. You didn't win because they believed in you. You won because you stopped needing them to. They don't clap for you. Cool. They'll study you later. In silence. Through gritted teeth. And fake smiles. Because deep down they know. You weren't just the one that got away. You were the one that outgrew everything they thought would hold you. They said you changed. Damn right you did. You went from overthinking every move to moving like a ghost, calculated, calm, and unreachable. They wanted access to your pain, not your peace. They liked you better when you were explaining yourself, begging for clarity, chasing people who couldn't even keep up with your old self. But now, you respond with silence. You answer with elevation, and you disappear like a rumor they can't prove. Ooh, you became everything they said you weren't built for. And it's eating them alive, not because you proved them wrong, but because you proved yourself right. Now they swear you're arrogant. Nah, you're just done performing humility for people who'd cheer louder if you lost. You're not cold. You're just healed. You're not too quiet. You're just not available for nonsense. You stopped living life like a PR campaign. You stopped giving discounts to people who only came around when they needed a piece of you. You stopped being understanding to people who understood exactly what they were doing. Ouch. That part hit, didn't it? Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Because while they're trying to figure out the new you, you're somewhere being unbothered, untagged and untouchable. Let them lurk. Let them fake smile when your name comes up. They're not over you. They're haunted by the fact they couldn't stop you, and deep down they know you didn't just bounce back. You came back so high they need binoculars and Wi-Fi just to keep up. Damn. The comeback wasn't loud, it was surgical, it was spiritual, it was built from every scar they left you with. You became the proof that quiet power is the most dangerous kind. That soft people become savage when they finally choose themselves. That the villain in their story might just be the hero in yours. They thought your silence meant weakness. Ooh. But silence is just what happens. When noise stops deserving your voice, you outgrew the stage they kept trying to trap you on. Now they're stuck performing for your absence, putting on shows, making up scenes, trying to convince the world they were never phased. Damn. They went. From front row seats to blocked lists, from fake smiles to quiet stares. And the best part? You didn't even have to clap back. Your piece? That was the loudest revenge. You became the lesson they pretend they never learned. The one they bring up in coded language. Like, some people switch up when they get successful. No, sweetheart. You didn't switch up. You just stopped settling down to match their mediocrity. Let them act confused. Let them act like you changed overnight. They didn't see the nights you rebuilt yourself. They didn't hear the thoughts that tried to break you. They didn't feel the fire you had to walk through to become this dangerous in your silence. Ouch. They liked it better when you were second-guessing, when you kept things small, when your light was dim enough to make them feel bright. But now, you shine without asking. You no longer shrink for comfort. You no longer bleed for people who never held a bandage. You no longer slow down to wait for those who never planned to move. And now they call you selfish? Nah, this isn't selfish. This is self-preservation. This is what happens when the healer gets tired, when the forgiver runs out of chances, when the underestimated becomes unbreakable. So let them stare. Let them watch you from fake accounts. Let them whisper your name like it's forbidden, because deep down, they don't hate you. They hate the fact that you made it out. You escaped the version of you they felt safe around, and became the version they can't compete with. So the next time they speak on your name, let them tell their version. Let them twist it, flip it, dramatize it, because while they're busy talking about the old you, you're out here building the kind of life that turns whispers into worship. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them closure. You were the storm, you were the lesson, and now you're the silence they'll never recover from. Well, well, well. Look who made it out. Look who they couldn't destroy. Look who's still standing, without needing to be seen. Now go ahead. Smile. Breathe. Disappear again. And let them choke on the fact you became everything they swore you'd never be. Unbothered. Unmatched. Unforgettable.